Good morning for those on the West Coast and good afternoon for those on the East. Welcome to the joint ControlUp VMware webinar on solving Horizon monitoring use cases. We will give a few more people a minute to join here, and then we'll get started right away. So I see the number going up. So let's just give it another 30, 45 seconds, and then we'll get right to our content. Thank you for your patience. All right. Once again, thank you for joining the joint ControlUp VMware webinar on solving Horizon monitoring use cases. I am Joel Stocker, and I will be kind of hosting the event today. You will be hearing much more from the other folks on the call, and I would like to briefly introduce them. So we have Chris Lau from VMware. He leads product management for Horizon. So he will be talking a little bit about the partnership and about Horizon. And after Chris, both Tristan from VMware, he is a solutions engineer, senior solutions engineer, and one of my colleagues, Tom Trended. I think I made a typo there. So Tom is part of our technical marketing team here over at ControlUp, and he will, together with Tristan, kind of walk you through various use cases. So very briefly about ControlUp, for those people who don't know ControlUp, and you will learn much more about ControlUp. We were founded in 2008 out of Israel, so we have a big part of our employees over in Israel are R&D, as well as some other teams over there. But we have a good presence here in the United States, as well as over in Europe. We are currently just over 200 employees. We've been growing quite fast over the last year. And we, of course, do that to serve all of our customers, of which we have over 1,300. We are venture capitalist backed, and for those people who are interested in these kind of finance things, we actually just received a new round of funding that is going to enable us to do much more in our product and do much more with our partnership with VMware. So today, what we will talk about is really focused around showing you what we can do. And you probably know it better than me, because you, the people on the call listening, are of course the people who work with your users and have to deal with requests coming in, issues that need to be addressed, and we will really focus on some of them. So no matter if it is related to things like logon duration, other user experience factors like, for example, latency, bandwidth, we really will touch on various use cases here and really try to answer the question in how we can help you resolve these issues, but also how we can use some of our features to kind of prevent issues before they actually become a problem. So that is definitely something that Tristan and Tom will go into much more depth, and will show you the actual product and how you can use it. But before Tom and Tristan, and before I hand it over to Chris Lau, feel free to ask questions in the question panel here in GoToWebinar. I will be keeping an eye on that. We have time reserved at the end to answer some questions as well. The session is being recorded, so that will be available at the end of the webinar. And you will also see in your GoToWebinar panel, there should be a handouts section where you can download the slides, because we do have some additional links and resources listed in there. So with those logistical items out of the way, Chris, thank you for joining us. Maybe you can introduce yourself and talk a little bit about how we work together.
Sure. Thank you, Joe. Thanks, everyone, for the time and opportunity here. Very excited to be here to talk about our partnership that VMware has with ControlUp. As Joe mentioned, ControlUp has been a key player and vendor in the monitoring and support space. What I'm here to share with you before I hand it over to Tristan and Tom to get to the really interesting and exciting stuff of troubleshooting and diagnosing issues, I want to talk about the partnerships that we have between VMware and ControlUp. As all of you know, who on a day-to-day basis manage your Horizon environment, right? Your number one goal, right? Number one task is really to make sure that you deliver the best user experience to users, whether the users are connecting to their desktops or applications, whether that desktop or applications is hosted on your premises, in your own data center, or in the cloud, right? You want to make sure that users get the best experience from when they connect from the client all the way to the applications, as well as making sure that the protocol performance meets the user's expectations in terms of, they have a great experience interacting with the application and desktops. And as we all know, right, in today's world, when most users are connecting remotely, right, we need to make sure that you have the tools and insight to be able to deliver that experience. Now, secondarily, in addition to making sure users get the best experience, occasionally you do come across users with issues, right? Whether they have, they're calling you up because they have a long logon time, or they experience an application issue, right, when they try to launch an application. You want to be able to quickly identify the issues, do root cause analysis, and remediate, right? And so these are really some of the key use cases that have really pulled VMware and ControlUp into this tight partnership. Now, what does that mean for you from a customer perspective, right? Beyond just the day-to-day operations of using ControlUp to monitor your Horizon environment. From a deployment perspective, you gain a flexible deployment in terms of using ControlUp to monitor your Horizon environment. When I say Horizon here, I'm speaking very broadly in the sense of the traditional Horizon that's deployed on-prem, as many of you have, and also customers who have Horizon deployed in the cloud, right? Whether that's on Azure, on AWS, or Google Cloud, and some of the other cloud platforms that Horizon supports. In addition to Horizon, right, ControlUp is available for deployments as a cloud service, which many of our customers do leverage simply because it is a easy, more of a turnkey solution for them. As well as we do see customers also needing a on-prem deployment of their ControlUp to basically for compliance reasons, right? For perhaps internal policy reasons. So customers have that deployment flexibility both on the Horizon side as well as the ControlUp side. And then lastly, really this is all about providing and offering our customers a seamless experience from a partnership perspective. What that means is, as a Horizon customer, you will be able to buy ControlUp directly from VMware. You can work directly with your VMware representative. They will be able to go through the demo with you. They will be able to work with you from start to placing the order. And then finally, right after you make the purchase, right, if you do come across an issue with support of ControlUp, you receive support directly from VMware as well. So single number to call, right? Whether you're having an issue with your Horizon products, or in this case with ControlUp, right? You call up VMware GSS, our global support team, and they will be they will work directly with you to mitigate those issues. Now, that being said, this has been a partnership for the last probably 6 to 8 months for us, and it's been a very exciting journey for us. Many of our customers are excited about this partnership as well, and what we want to do here is use this opportunity to really show you, right, through the demos that Tristan and Tom will do, how customers are leveraging, what some of the more common issues that customers are seeing, and how ControlUp can help you solve those problems, and in some cases, proactively mitigate them, which is a unique value that many of customers look for. So at this point, I'm going to hand this over to Tom and Tristan to go through the very exciting use cases.
Thank you, Chris.
Thanks, Chris.
And Tom's getting connected here. Tristan Todd, I'm a field solutions engineer with VMware. I spend all day, every day with customers with real use cases and real opportunities to add business value. And Tom and I, we've worked together in the past. I'll share that Tom and I live in Portland, Oregon metro area. And so we occasionally get together in person. We're not just virtual buddies, we're actually real buddies in real life. But Tom and I are going to walk through a couple of practical examples, do a little bit of live troubleshooting. And Tom, I'll let you introduce yourself.
Oh, great, yeah. As Tristan said, my name is Tom Fenton, not Tom Trenton, which is quite a compliment. Trenton's one of my coworkers here who I greatly respect, fantastic guy. Tristan lives, 12 miles west of Portland. I live 20 miles north of Portland and occasionally meet in Portland. But been working with ControlUp for over a year and a half now. Have a really good Horizon background and really impressed with this product. With that said, let's just kind of dig in. Hey, Tristan, can you see my screen there?
I can, yeah, looks great.
All right, fantastic. Why don't I just kind of go over these top couple tabs here real quick and give an overview of the product for people who maybe haven't seen it before. That sound good?
Sounds great.
Okay. Yeah, so right now I'm looking at the hosts. These are all the hosts in your environment. Taking a look at them, everything looks pretty good so far. You can see things like, your vCPU to physical CPU ratio. These are sortable columns. So you can see a few of them are a little bit more loaded than others. You can take a look at your storage. Looks like I might have some storage issues here. We might come back and take a look at that here in a second. You can even see things like, if I go way over here, the EVC baseline, maximum supported EVC. So you can see if you can do things like vMotion from one machine to another. Machines, same thing, shows all the virtual machines in your environment, actually physical machines too. Where hosts are hypervisors, machines are the virtual machines or physical machines. And one of the neat things about ControlUp is we don't collect our data from one source. We collect it from a bunch of different sources. We collect information from the hypervisor. We collect information from inside the operating itself, whether it be a Windows server or desktop, with the Linux machines. We just collect that data. And then we also collect data from the connection server and even things like UAG. We use APIs to go out there and harvest that information. And you can see it's a pretty intuitive dashboard. Red means bad. And it looks like I have some bad stuff going on here. One of the stupid things I do with this is this VM power state column. I can go ahead and drag it up here and group, and just take a look at what machines are powered on and powered off. I never could figure out how to do that in the vCenter. So, just one of those silly things. Same thing with operating systems. I want to know how many different operating systems I have going on here. You can see I have quite a few. By the way, we're running this on test drive. Did you mention test drive there, Tristan?
Not yet, but I think we're going to cover that in a few minutes. Okay. So basically, that drag status to the top of the barrel, that's like an instant pivot table. It looks like.
Yep, exactly. And you can do multi-dimensional analysis. You can group in on top of groups. So yeah, pretty cool stuff. And these stress levels, we come up with some predefined stress levels, but we know everyone has their own level of pain they can tolerate. So you can change those if need be. We do sessions. These are people who are logged on, processes. Again, because we have that deep introspection into the virtual machine itself, we can see what processes are running. And I think we have a demo that'll show that a little bit later.
So Tom, one of the problems that a lot of my customers have in their, their desktop environment, physical, virtual, is they get dinged by the business because, you know, typically users that are in pain, having performance problems, have to call into the service desk, you know, open a ticket. Someone has to respond to that. One thing that's really valuable is the ability to kind of proactively identify a user that's experiencing pain and then quickly correlate, like, is there a particular bad application that's at fault, or is it a problem with the infrastructure? Is that something that you guys can show and ControlUp easily?
Oh, absolutely. Well, we'll kind of take a look at from the host level and dive down to maybe an issue that people aren't aware of, but we'll find a noisy neighbor here in just a second. So, you know, stress level critical. Then I'm just going to scroll over here, and it looks like this guy is having some problems with its storage. We have this guy here, our little virtual expert. And he says, hey, maybe you want to try this. So, you know, we put some intelligence into our dashboard. And so what I went from is the host to the machine. These are virtual machines, and it looks like this is the noisy neighbor there. So we identified the noisy neighbor, but let's find out why he's not playing well with his friends. So I'm just going to go click on processes here, and sure enough, this is the user, control user 2, and he looks like he's running Dynamo, which I know is a storage benchmarking tool, stressing tool, and he's kind of not playing well with others. So what I could do now is just go ahead and send him a chat message and say, hey, what's the deal? Do you really need to do this? You know, maybe he'll get back to me, maybe he won't. And depending on that interaction I have with him, I can do things like I can go to processes, I can end the process, kill the process. And we even take it one step further where we can set the process priority. Maybe he says, yeah, this is a critical test. I say, oh, well, let's give him above normal CPU usage so it doesn't stall. Or, you know, maybe I say, let's put him to the bottom of the pile here. So, you know, I can kill him or just, you know, deal with him that way. We also have the ability to stop certain processes from running altogether. If we find people are abusing certain processes, or we have suspicious process, we can also do that. So basically, we went from seeing a host was busy to diving down and finding the process and killing it within what was it, like six clicks, and what
Something
take
like
me a minute with me blabbering on.
So with you know, with COVID times here, and you know, every use case is kind of a remote use case. How can I uncover you know, network issues and protocol issues? Like, how do I identify when a user might have a bad user experience and it's a last mile or maybe a last 50 feet problem? It's not necessarily the infrastructure that's slow, but it might be like the network connection of a user.
Yeah, you know, and we're seeing that more and more because we have that issue. And actually, we do a couple things that are kind of neat. One is we actually can go out there and monitor things like iGel, VDI clients, and Windows IoT via clients. But let's go ahead and take a look at one of these guys and take a look at there. Oh, we do have these preset columns. And so I'm going to go to our user score. Oh, sorry, I need to go sessions and user score. And we have the user experience score. And sorry, I'm gonna have to bounce back forth there, get my little bar back. And let's go ahead and take a look and see what's going on there. Networks received. You know, let's come back and take a look at that in here in just a second. Let's take a look at the networking. And we have these recommended actions that are context sensitive. So let's go ahead and take a look at network connections that are established in this one. That will give us an overview of it. And again, that deep introspection into what's going on. We can take a look at, you know, all these established connections. Which is pretty cool, you know, pretty neat because you didn't have to log on to the virtual machine. And we can also take a look at like the blast connections. Let me see if I can find that.
Is that it looks like your column preset is set to default. Can you, oh, there you go. Cool. Nice.
Yeah. And this one takes just a second to run. But yeah, so what we're doing now is going out and getting all those blast statistics that you'd have to go again to the either to the Horizon console and get, or go to the virtual machine and take a look at all these and help you ping it down. These are just a few of the scripts we have. And by the way, all these scripts are downloadable. You can run them. They're open source, so you can inspect the code to make sure there's nothing nefarious or going in on there. And yep.
And are your if you set that column preset there, does that uncovers the data like in kind of graphical or a GUI format, right?
That's what you're looking at here down in the dashboard, yeah.
Oh, okay, so that's the bandwidth, like the latency, and you guys look at packet loss too, right?
Yeah, we got a script out there that shows packet loss, but because this is a test drive environment, we don't have any, so it's not very exciting to look at.
Cool. And this works with like an on-prem Horizon environment and then something that's deployed in like Azure, correct?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. We what was it, about 6 months ago, we had a big push because we know you guys are big on Azure, had a big push to make sure that our bits worked well on Azure. So it works great.
Fantastic. So one other issue that I encounter quite a lot, and I had a user in manufacturing, and I think you're ahead of me there, but login duration. So I think you and I've talked about how sometimes it's a benefit when you have a slow login, because as a user you can get up, maybe go have a cup of coffee or a cup of tea or some other beverage, but that can impact the business, like in a customer care center where somebody can't afford to have a slow login, or maybe healthcare where a clinician can't waste important cycles waiting for a login. So can you walk through kind of how do we assess login duration and why a login might be slow?
Yeah, absolutely. This is our #1 most used script. It's analyze login duration, and that's why it's here. The virtual expert suggests analyzing it because that's the issue people have. So we're going out as we're going to the virtual desktop, collecting all the statistics. We're sorting them by timestamps. We're correlating when the process starts, when the process ends. We kind of check everything. We check group policies. We check volumes, things like that. It takes just a second to run.
And there's currently like 350 or 375 scripts, templated scripts that you guys ship with that people can take advantage of, correct?
Yeah, right. And if for some reason those don't cover your use case, you can write your own. And Joel, could you maybe put a link in there on that article you wrote on how to go ahead and write scripts? I found it really useful. It's a really nice write-up by Joel.
Cool.
So here we have, takes you through all the processes, the time. Looks like this is our problem child, Windows group policies, and then we kind of break them down so you can get a better idea. All these different tasks that happen when you log on. We even do app volumes. When I was in VMware education, app volumes in that environment was just a problem child. And so this would have been so useful in that. But it looks like our problem is this group policy drive mapping, taking 1.5 minutes to do that. And we'll even narrow it down to, what exactly is
super cool.
the GPO.
So it's like that one GPO is the problem, and why 118 second login, 98 seconds is attributed to the drive mapping.
Right, and the thing is, because we do track it here on the dashboard, a lot of people just won't report slow login time because they're so used to it. So they might not even be talking about it. And like you said, you go out and get a couple cups of coffee. So like that's our #1 script there.
So what about like infrastructure? Like if I know, like I've zeroed in on like common pain points with logins. What if I want to look at like the status of my unified access gateways, for example? I want to see like, what am I connected to, or what am I configured to connect to from a user perspective or an environment perspective?
Yeah, so the UAG, we can go out there, collect a bunch of information from it, and you can run these scripts. Oh, that's kind of interesting. That went away. You can run them by going up here. Looks like someone might be messing with our environment here, so I'll just try it on one.
Yeah, this is a live environment.
Yeah, let me go to machines rather than sessions there. That'll help. We're going to try and run it against all three of them because a lot of these scripts do allow that. UAG. And just go ahead and get Horizon UAG help. And we do, have credentials. We do have the security wrapped around this, so not just anyone can run these scripts. You can decide what gets run and what doesn't. So, yep, tells things like the gateway name, the address, the gateway version, all this great information. Again, you'd have to go someplace else to collect it. We kind of make it easy for you. And this uses the IPA. IPA, no, that's the beer we drink. What is it? Yeah.
So you uncover like the configuration for UAG, like the client configuration.
Yep, exactly.
What about like if I'm not doing VDI, I'm not doing desktops, but I've got like RDSH or terminal server farms environment. Is there a way to kind of look at the status of those server farms?
Yeah, absolutely. Why don't we do one more thing and then we'll switch into my home environment because I have that set up. It's in our latest release 8.2 and we're on 8.1 here. So why don't I show you something else that is kind of one of our great selling points is the automated actions. Let me show you how I can clean up a disk real quick. Does that sound good?
Yeah, and so that's where we could leverage some of those scripts, the scripted methods.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have triggers, script, kind of the standard there.
But you already ran the scripts. Are you talking about getting these scripts to execute autonomously, like automatically?
Yep, absolutely. They detect a issue and we go out and clean up the issue. Why don't we just go ahead and dive into one, take a look at it and see what it does. This is the one that cleans up the system drive. Yeah, let me get a little bit wider. And so we're going from a state to another state. And, free system on drive is less than or equal to, 1 gig. You can modify this if you want. And, we got so many states you can choose from. Horizon GPUs. By the way, we do support NVIDIA GPUs because we know those are a valuable asset. Horizon connection server, whether that help desk licenses enabled, just a lot of different ones you can choose from.
And those are like all the areas where you can kind of initiate a trigger or identify a state change that would launch an action. Is that right?
Yep. Cool. And then you tell it. I don't know if you saw the little folders I had there because maybe you don't want this running against all your environment. Maybe just a select group of users, whatever. And the schedule also. Maybe you don't care about this during the weekend. And then you just tell it what you want to do. And here's the script. And the script is just going to go ahead and clean up a disk when it notices that it's full. Then you give it a name. So let's go ahead and give this one a try. What do you think?
Sounds good. Sounds good.
All right, let's go ahead and fill up the disk first. And by the way, there's recommended actions. You can also specify ones that you want. And here we have one that says fill up the disk. Now, and so I'm going to go ahead and fill up the disk. I should have went over here. So free disk, you can see it's filled up. And we'll give the script just that trigger just a few minutes a few seconds to notice that it's full, and it'll go ahead and clean it up. Bam. So you see it.
Oh wow. So the data is so real time that it's that fast. What is the recency as far as the data? Is this really real time?
Yeah, absolutely. From the virtual machines, virtual desktops, we collect the stats every 3 seconds. So that's about as real time as you can get, right?
Super cool.
Yeah.
Hey, yes, I know sometimes it's painful, like if you're looking at a monitoring solution and the data is like, 3 or 4 minutes old, that gets annoying because users, sometimes when they're on the phone, they want to know what's happening right now. And as an administrator, we do too.
Right, right. And the problem with averages, so, if you collect it every 3 minutes, then it's going to be averaged over 3 minutes. And, you're going to miss those peaks and valleys. And the problem with averages, if me and you, Tristan, and Bill Gates were up in Seattle having a beer, on average, we'd all be billionaires, right?
Sure.
Yeah, that's a problem with averages. And I only know two of us would be
I
in
don't like to think
actuality.
of the world in those terms. That's kind of depressing, but I hear you. What about so Tom, what if I'm not in like a real-time scenario? Let's say I'm in a small environment where I've got users that are overseas and I get a service desk ticket in the morning when I come on shift that says, user Paul in Amsterdam had problems overnight with his environment. Is there a way to kind of look at historic, and I'm not necessarily talking, months in arrears, but maybe the last 24 hours, something like that. Can you guys, or can you walk through kind of the ability to look at historic data and session history?
Yeah, absolutely. Let me go ahead and, we have that in test drive.
Okay.
Let me bring back up test drive here. Let me give one more big plug to triggers and actions. This is, we just got to doing a real cool one with using your screen recorder, your Fling screen recorder, where it can capture.
Oh, cool, nice.
Yeah, we worked with you guys. Actually, Trenton, I think it was Trenton, and Guy Leach worked with him. Said, hey, can we use this as a trigger? So, kind of getting back to your point, is we can set up a trigger. So, if at midnight, 2 a.m., you see a process start to maybe use 75, 100% CPU utilization, we can go ahead and capture the screen and see what was going on. So that's kind of cool.
Wow.
Whereas I'm going to go ahead and click ControlUp Insights, but that real-time console runs in real time. It runs in on your system. There's just one executable you download and install, real easy to install. Let me bounce back over real quick too. And to add your EUC environments, pretty much just 4 clicks and you're there. So it's real easy to install. If it takes you more than 5 minutes, give us a call and we'll help you figure out what's going on. But back to your question about insights. Yep. So we collect the data, and we know that there's a lot of data here, so we don't want to store it on your servers. So we go ahead and put it up to the cloud, and we'll take care of that huge storage. And we keep it for a year. We can keep it for longer if you need to. We can work with you on that. So I think you've actually.
Oh, that's cool. So I don't have to have like a big SQL server or a GRES server like on-prem housing all this data.
Yeah, exactly. You don't need a database administrator. You don't need yeah. So it's right here. And I think you've used this. Do you want to talk through it as I kind of scroll down through it?
Well, yeah, and I'm probably fooling a little bit because I do have some experience with ControlUp Insights. So in a lot of cases, we have to do, VMware people in the field need to do an assessment of an environment. Maybe a physical environment that's a candidate for virtualization, or maybe an on-prem Horizon environment where you're looking at a subset of systems, desktop pools or maybe applications, and trying to find out if they're a candidate for hosting in the cloud. And so ControlUp Insights is a great way to look at things like, the top consumers of CPU resource from a user perspective, but also from an app perspective. So we can zero in on, what are the most heavily used apps, but what are the resources that those, heavily used apps are consuming. I think this is a great kind of dashboard or scoreboard that gives you quick hit information. And then you get things like an assessment of the environment as far as, how many sessions on average, what are the peaks and valleys as far as concurrency, the total number of virtual machines. These are stats that you might need for like a monthly report or something like that. And these are dashboards that, you can set as a default dashboard for your account or maybe your boss's login. So that when they come in, they see this, first thing. I really like the sizing recommendations as well, because it's really common to have undersized and oversized systems in an environment. Maybe you've put too much CPU out there or not enough. And so there's some good practical recommendations. Obviously, you want to study this. And then all of these dashboards are bound by kind of do you want to look, do you want to look for the last year, the last 24 hours, based on, what is your date range, what is your data set that you want to study, which is cool.
Yeah. And I see a question, export. I think you do this, right? You export them, so send them to your manager, have a little bit better look at them. And one of the neat things I like about this is the CPU recommendations. Sortable. We recommend this, but the people, you don't have blind faith, right? And this one suggests removing. It's set up for 6 CPUs, and there's the usage. So and now I maybe you want to talk this, Tristan. In the past year, we've just seen this huge explosion in virtual desktops, and people want them, really trying to conserve our resources. So whenever you can trim down, right?
Well, yeah, I've had a lot of developers, say, hey, I need 8 vCPUs, and give them 8 vCPUs, and you find out they're never going to exceed 4. And so sometimes it's nice to have the data and be able to export that data, because sometimes the easiest way to win an argument, in my opinion, is with data. Show somebody their utilization history, show them the peaks and valleys, and say, hey, we could throw all of the developers on your team a bunch of CPUs, but that's not going to solve the problem. So super cool, man.
Yeah, you've done some stuff with computer trends too, haven't you? Or you
done not very often. I mean, I like to use trends because trends can kind of give you an idea of over time. Are you going to need more resources, and what resource might you need to add to an environment?
Yeah, so this is CPU utilization. I'm looking over the last year here, and we're starting to ramp up a little bit. So might want to take a look. Maybe you deployed another application that's more CPU intensive, things like that. And I also like the host trends. We do have this neat forecasting feature in there. And again, I'm going to look for the last year.
Nice.
Yeah, looks like we had some issues here. And these are clickable, and you can see at that time we went from having 300 virtual desktops to 30 virtual desktops. So some kind of outage, something happened right here.
So can you pull up the user activity and maybe do a search for Tristan and see what he was doing this morning?
I am bound by certain confidential agreements that
I give you permission.
Yeah, so like I said, all kept up in the cloud. You can see it's pretty dang responsive. You can export them, bookmark them. Can even do forecasts. This one, our new features. So I'm not sure why we're saying you're going to use more, probably based on this trending, but and again, it gives you some heads up that maybe you want to start looking at procuring some more servers, so you don't kind of get in where you got to buy them when they want to sell them to you, rather than so certain times of the year it can be more advantageous to buy servers than others.
Super cool. So Tom, is there anything in your labs, like anything that you can show us that's kind of new or coming soon?
Yeah, absolutely. This is, I think, and Joel maybe can speak to this. I think we either released it or we're going to be releasing 8.2 here just in shortly. And so this is my home environment. And I got one of these little ARM guys that the Fling, the ESXi on ARM, love that little guy. And we do even support monitoring that. I'm running some tests on the storage, and you can see that it's going quite well. But let's take a look at the EUC environment. I'm going to go ahead and focus in on this. And by the way, you can either double click these or just right click them and say focus. And we now do applications, something that I know the healthcare guys love. And I think you mentioned applications as well, didn't you?
Yeah, because I mean, let's face it, not all use cases are solved with a full virtual desktop. Sometimes you just want to deliver the apps. Stylistically, that's what users like, is just give me the apps.
Right. No one buys a computer to run a desktop. They run apps, right? So, yep. And so we now support apps, and you can see we have a bunch of them going on here. I'm going to go ahead and dive into one of them and show you something kind of cool that we can do with apps. That's my desktop pool. And there's my bar. So these are the applications. You can see one's disabled. And I know with Horizon 7, you couldn't just disable a specific app. You had to disable the whole application pool, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we can do that now with 7. I know you guys with Horizon 2012, which was released, what, a month ago?
Mm-hmm.
You have that feature in it, but we can even go back and do it for the Horizon 7 stuff. So that's kind of cool.
Oh, cool. So you're using our REST API to make some actual setting changes.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, you know, our close relationship with you guys, we can kind of really do cool stuff here.
Right on.
So we have a user here with his using calculator and notepad. And I can do things like right click, Horizon management. You know, I can disconnect the session. I can log off the session forcibly if I need to. Focusing on that guy too. Yep, here we go. Let's just go ahead and log him off just for giggle. There we go.
Oh yeah, users love it when you do that.
Yeah. Or disable them and then we can re-enable them as need be. So that's something we're really excited about. A couple other things we're really excited about is we're working with Epic Healthcare. Did you do healthcare for a while?
Yep. Yeah, I've got experience in healthcare.
Yeah. So Epic, right? The big player. We're working our relationship with them, and we should be able to release something shortly about that. How we monitor them. Can I show you one more thing real quick here? Do we got a few?
Sure. Yeah, I think we're good on time.
Yeah, some of the other neat new stuff is Solve. Again, with 8.2, this is a HTML5 based, so you can access it anywhere from multiple devices. I tried doing my cell phone, but it was just a little bit too small of a screen, but a tablet, it looks really good. So all the monitoring that you saw in our real-time console, you can do from here. And we have this cool topography bar up here, so you can kind of get an idea of what's going on. So application pools, we do those, desktops, processes, user sessions. Have a couple different ways to view this. We have this, comfortable mode. And we, as BB King said, I'm built for comfort, baby, not for speed. And we
So
have
this would be like an awesome interface to like put up on a network operations center, like a scoreboard or a jumbotron, so that you can kind of look at an environment in real time.
Yeah, and that's something we, obviously you guys, that's something with 8.2, the scalability on it is just huge because this does run in the cloud, and so do just Knox, whatever you have. And these columns are kind of cool too because you can filter on them. CPU is probably less than 0. Well, probably need something 10. Go ahead and filter on that. You can move these columns around, sortable columns. Yeah, so we're really
Tom,
excited
sorry to
about
break in there. Can you click on the cogwheel and click on centralized auditing? If you have it set up, the audit log, yeah. Yeah, there was a question about that, so I just wanted to kind of so I'm not sure if you have it enabled because it doesn't seem to be any data, but there was a question about kind of like being able to do audit logging. It needs to be enabled. It's currently in preview, but will be in GA pretty soon, and this is where you would find that information.
Yep. Yeah. My little lab here locally, little trash lab here locally that I abuse horribly. Yeah, no, send that up. It logs it. Yeah. Anything else, Joel, you think I should point out here real quick? Unsolved. I mean, it has all the goodness of our real-time console.
So let me let me quickly take one question because it's kind of related to it. But there was a question about we are having issues with latency. What can ControlUp do to track down the source of latency for a user experience? Now, you talked a little bit about that earlier, right? How you can kind of like have the user experience score, but that will still tell you kind of like, the stuff you're monitoring, right? Your horizon and kind of the session, right? Possibly a little bit through the scripts with the UAG. What is ControlUp kind of like thinking about, like kind of the last mile, right? What kind of like the user's home network and things like that?
Do you want to answer that one, Joel? Because I'm not sure I should speak to that. But on the Horizon Control side, we can also do trace routes to kind of figure out where it's stopping. But
and it's I mean, in the past, you could get away with the answer, right? If a user called you and said, I have an issue, right? And everything shows green, right, on your side. Yeah, in the past, you could maybe get away with like, well, it's not my problem, it's your problem, right? But with, the COVID-19 kind of pandemic and so many people working from home, there's a pressure on IT admins and help desks to kind of come up with resolutions that are not necessarily part of the environment they can control, right? Like the ISP or the local Wi-Fi or something that's more environmental to wherever the user is working. And although we are also working on solutions where we can actually remediate the issues, the first step we're going to take is through something we call client metrics, where we really going to kind of like through a small piece of software, small DLL, where you can basically drop it kind of like on the client device, and it will give you information both through the real-time console as well as through Solve, which you just showed, about like the local Wi-Fi strength, information about the number of hops, about is there maybe kind of like a latency between the user's endpoint and the ISP. So we are pretty soon adding some interesting technology that can give you that full end-to-end view. Now it's kind of like up to the VMware client, right? That one will kind of like look a little bit further into kind of like these local network parameters and metrics that are typically kind of out of the sight of the IT administrator. So there's a lot of cool things to come there.
Can I put in a quick plug for Scout Bees, which detects when something isn't happening? And one of the coolest stories is we got Scout Bees, we implemented Scout Bees, and then that's when, right before the Azure outage happened. And so we were able to detect that and knew it before I don't think anyone else did, because we got an email alert. And I was just thinking that the Verizon, with it going out off in the northeast there, I think, oh yeah, Scout Bees, that's kind of cool technology.
Hey, fantastic, really cool demos, Tom.
Oh yeah, and the test drive. Yeah, I mean, I love that resource. We partnered with you guys on that. Do you want to talk about it? Do you want me to talk about it?
I think Joel has it.
Yeah.
Oh, Joel has some stuff. Oh, great, fantastic.
So let me just quickly check, because we're kind of coming to the Q&A section here. Just wanted to, I've been trying to kind of keep up, listening to you and answering some questions. So you actually touched on quite a few. Did you show GPU support? Maybe you can quickly kind of highlight what type of metrics. I know they have it in test drive. I'm not sure if you still have the test drive environment.
I got off the test drive environment. Sorry about that. But yeah, we do collect GPUs from NVIDIA's. Yep.
I guess that's the difference between Bill Gates being a billionaire and not you, because you can't afford these expensive vGPU cards, right?
yeah. What is the 8090 that's impossible to get now? Is that right?
I actually have a question. Chris, are you still on the call?
I am, yes.
All right, so there was a question. Hold on, let me just scroll up. About VROP support in Horizon 8. I can't really comment on that, what kind of like, VMware's kind of like strategy and plan is. So maybe you can quickly touch on kind of what your thinking is there.
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to answer that question. So VROPs for Horizon. So up until this point, right, this partnership, specifically partnership with ControlUp and VMware, is primarily focused on the in-guest, right? So anything that's, if you will, primarily from the Horizon management components, right? Connection server, UAG, right? Agents, and up. So in-guest OS and insight, right? And protocol information. On the VRAP side, there is a management pack for Horizon that focus on effectively at the SCDC layer. So what that means is they will look at the data set between your Horizon environment with respect to the vSphere vSAN that's hosting that your Horizon infrastructure. So there's that delineation between where ControlUp really brings value for the Horizon management layer and up with the OSs, and then the VRAPS portion focus on the SCDC layer that's hosting your Horizon infrastructure. So hopefully that answered your question there.
Thank you for that. Tom, there was one specific question targeted at you. Phil noticed that there was ARM_DC is running off a Raspberry Pi. What is this deployment scenario like? I think you wrote about it. At least I've seen tweets about it. So
Yeah, absolutely. Real easy to deploy. Just a lot of fun. The dang thing works. You can just Google ESXi on ARM, and I think I'm on the first page there. ESXi on ARM ControlUp, and you can see how we integrate with it. But anyone who has an extra, you can do them as cheap as $50. Mine costs $200. Highly recommend. Just a cool thing, and they aren't just a toy. You can use them as witness nodes for vSANs, and ARM is the future. There's people doing some real trick stuff with ARM servers, and so you got these little $50 ARMs, and you got $10,000 ARM servers as well.
Cool.
And we gave one away over Christmas, by the way.
I'm pretty sure people are happy about hearing about how they missed that promotion. Maybe we'll do another one.
Yeah, keep an eye on us. If, you know me, I'd be giving away ARMs rather than T-shirts any day.
There you go.
All
Nice.
right, so let me just pull up the kind of like we're still a few minutes, and if questions come in, we'll kind of get back to them. But let me just throw up the slide here. All right, so I did want to briefly talk about how to get started because it's super easy. There's two ways to get started with ControlUp for your environment. You can either do it actually in your environment. So here on the slides, you see the top part. You can go to My VMware and under Advanced Monitoring for VMware Horizon, you will find the ControlUp software. You can download them, get them set up. There is some additional slides here in this deck that talk about prerequisites and port requirements and all those kind of things. But you can be up and running kind of with the basics in, let's say, 10 minutes. There's, of course, if you want to bring in other components to monitor and configuring triggers, which you saw during the demo, some additional time required, but you can basically start collecting data and seeing data within minutes. And the trial through VMware of ControlUp is valid for 90 days. We do believe that you can probably see value in it faster than 90 days, but in case it's needed, you can run it for 90 days. And together with VMware, we'll make sure that you're getting the right treatment, that you know how it works, and we'll kind of white glove you if you're going to do a serious POC. If you just want to get kind of like play around, click around, test some of these things out, but not in your own environment, I would recommend Test Drive. So we have ControlUp on Test Drive. There's various walkthroughs available where you can literally kind of like, it's PDF, I think, or even a web page. You can like literally do step by step to kind of like see how all these things work. Test Drive is not automatically accessible. You do need to reach out to your VMware sales representative or sales engineer, solutions engineer, and they can help you get access if needed. So those are the two main ways. Tristan, is that, did I miss anything there?
Yep. Yeah. If you go to vmtestdrive.com and click the Get Started, and you could self-register, and it'll get you in touch with your VMware team. It's a hosted environment. It's a live environment, so you'll be presented with credentials. You'll be able to log in and actually interact with desktops and apps as a user, and then look at the administrative interfaces, including ControlUp. So a lot of the scripts, a lot of the actions, and some of the scenarios that are walked through are documented really well. So if you want to kind of look at some of the scenarios that Tom showcased, you can do that yourself, as well as kind of poke around and see what else is in the environment. So it's very valuable, and again, it doesn't require anything deployed on your site. You don't even need a Horizon client. You can use the HTML interface to log into Horizon, hit a desktop, hit if you don't want to do the whole desktop, you can just hit the published ControlUp app, which is available. So it's a great way to get started.
Okay, and let's see, I'm just checking here and typing away here on some of these questions. I think there's a bit of feedback, so thank you for that, about having a little bit of a hard time finding the download. It's because I think it's under advanced monitoring, but I've noticed that if you just Google VMware ControlUp, right, it's like one of the first links in there that leads you to more information in the download, I believe. But thank you for that feedback, and we'll have a look to kind of see how we can make it a little bit easier to find. Let's see. I think we got most of the questions answered. I guess the what remains is quickly going through the resources. So I'm not going to touch on this. In the GoToWebinar kind of like panel on the right side, there should be a handout tab where you can download the slides we are showing today. Tom, I updated your name in there as well. So for those people who downloaded it after the first 10 minutes, they know your full name. But there's some additional requirement or information in there. We also have a whole bunch of links, some around the prerequisites, around how to get started, security and privacy and the architecture, and there are some other useful utilities. Now, we also have some blog posts, of course, on the ControlUp blog. We talk about ControlUp all the time. There's some specific blog posts that go into detail on the VMware Horizon integration, but also over at the EUC blog at the VMware website, you will find some additional information. And I have some plans. I'm not sure if I talked about those with Tom, but for Tom to write some more blogs for there, and you will see some more kind of coming out around the RDSH support Tom showed you in the product. All right, so kind of like giving it back to, so first of all, thank you, Chris and Tristan from the VMware side, and of course, Tom and Tristan together to kind of walking us through the product. I'm pretty sure that there's much more to show. Is that correct, guys?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
And I guess the best way is to, to actually see it in your environment. So by all means, if there's interest, reach out to your sales rep, or if you already have, contact with us over at ControlUp, we're happy to work together with VMware on your Horizon POC or on your ControlUp in Horizon POC. And with kind of like, I think 30 seconds left, I'm always proud of myself if we make it within the allotted time. So I want to, thank everybody on the call as well for attending and the great questions. And keep an eye out for the email with the recording. And if there's any questions, then please follow up with us. Thanks, everybody.
Hey, thanks, Tristan. Great one. High five. Ready? Virtual high five. Ready?